So last weekend we saw Manchester City lift the Premier League trophy for the 4th season in a row. But what if they didn't win it? What if their team wasn't even comprised of the same players? What if none of the teams in the Premier League were comprised of the same players, and every single Premier League player was randomly distributed about the league? Well, today we're finding out what would happen in that situation. Using an equation in Excel, I randomly allocated all 836 players contracted to Premier League clubs, including players out on loan to other clubs, and players on loan at Premier League clubs, randomly between the 20 teams in the Premier League. I then transferred each player to their new clubs one by one, and after having to manually input every player into the Excel document as well, this whole process took about 9 hours, so I'd really appreciate a like on the video for my efforts. So starting off here with Bournemouth, and starting off strong, because they look like they've got a decent team, especially that back line. Arsenal's team also not looking too bad, maybe a bit of an issue up front and in defensive midfield though. Villa's team's a bit of a mix, so the backline's got Ruben Diaz and then 3 lower 70 rated players, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Brentford look like a pretty average team just with a few stars. Those 4 players through the centre, Haaland, Ødegaard, Van Dijk and Alisson, that's very strong, but then the right side's decent and the left side's pretty average. Brighton's team looks pretty decent, maybe left back's a bit of an issue for them. Burnley look like they got a solid team, nothing incredible, but not too bad either, although John McGinn on the right wing is an interesting choice. Now Chelsea's team doesn't look great, not a single 80 rated player, and their goalkeeper is 65 rated, so slightly worried about Chelsea. Palace's team as well, not looking great, but they do have a couple of standout players, so they might be okay. Although Rodri is playing an attacking midfield, which is another interesting choice, like McGinn on the wing. Everton's team looks pretty decent, only a couple of mid-70 players, everyone else 80s or high 70s, so they look decent, but no standouts. But Fulham are kind of the opposite. Most of them are in the 70s, but then the ones that are in the 80s are quite good. Liverpool's team looks okay. Nothing special really, I don't think. Luton's team looks a bit weak. Only a couple 80 rated players, but only a couple low 70s, so they may be okay. United's team, immediately, the things that jumped out to me with the 2 69 rated players and the 66 rated goalkeeper. However, they do have a few 80s still and some high 70s, so that'll be an interesting one to see. Man City have got 55 in centre mid. Jeez. Other than that, the team's pretty average, but I actually just want to take a quick look at Man City's team. They genuinely don't have a better centre mid than this 55. He's genuinely their 3rd best centre midfield option. Scratch that. He's their 2nd best centre midfield option because they're playing a right mid at cam. Newcastle look like they got a pretty decent team. It's just the right winger which has got a bit of a low overall. Other than that, everyone's almost 80, and Kukurea and Gravenberch, I'd expect they reach 80 during the season. So I think Newcastle so far are the ones I've got the highest hopes for. No standouts really, but good across the board. Forest team ain't too bad. Pretty average apart from maybe Grealish and the 272s, sort of opposite ends of the quality spectrum. Sheffield United have a fairly weak team other than Cancelo and Rice. And I guess Konate and Douglas Luiz as well. So hopefully those 480 players will probably carry Sheffield United here because the rest of the team isn't amazing. And also just a note here, Forest and Sheffield United are the only 2 teams with 1 goalkeeper because that's just how the randomization worked. Some of the teams ended up with like 6, but Sheffield United and Forest only have 1 keeper, so if their keepers get injured or suspended, they're in trouble. Spurs team doesn't look too bad other than central midfield. They're very weak there, but in the rest of the areas, they're not too bad, so I think they'll be alright. West Ham's team's fairly weak. Palhinha and Olise are alright for them, but everyone else is sort of mid-70s pretty much across the board, so maybe they're in trouble a little bit. And finally, Wolves, and their team also pretty weak, apart from Alexander-Arnold and Bernardo Silva. So those 2 might be able to carry Wolves and keep them up. But now you've seen all the teams, leave your prediction down in the comments. Who you think's getting relegated? Who's winning the league, Champions League spots, all that stuff. I don't want anyone cheating. I will know if you have cheated. So I'm going to choose to manage a League 2 club because I don't want to have any influence on the Premier League. And then what I'll do at the end of the season is I'll use the live editor to take a job from a Premier League team, and then we can have a look at everything at the end of the season. I'm also going to disable the European competitions because I don't want anyone having to overstretch themselves if they've got a weak squad and they're playing in Europe. I don't want any unfairness in this experiment. And also disable the first transfer window, but what I'm going to do with the live editor, I can give everyone a transfer ban, so I'm going to do that so that no one's moving around. It is just all these teams as they are competing in the Premier League. Right, so I've given everyone their transfer ban until 2050, and again, it's not just the Premier League clubs, it is every team in the game, so no one's making any transfers. Just means that other leagues won't be coming in and poaching players then, or the Premier League teams won't be buying players from other leagues. Makes it a fair experiment. So now I've done that, I'm going to sim to the end of the season, and I'll see you in the Premier League. Right, so now I'm at the 1st of June, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the Premier League table without taking a job there, because I want to see if the table changes from looking at it now to taking the job in the Premier League. So let's look at the Premier League here, and Liverpool won it, which I'm surprised at. I didn't think their team was strong enough. Honestly, I can't remember how good a lot of the teams were. But Fulham, Forest, Spurs filling up the Champions League spots and Burnley getting Europa League. Then United finished bottom. United were a team I was worried about. I remember that. Then Bournemouth and Sheffield United as well. I think Sheffield United, they had a couple of players who were good, but not much more than that. And then Bournemouth, I thought Bournemouth's team was all right, if I remember correctly. Yeah, because that was the first one I remember. I said we were starting off strong with Bournemouth. So I thought Bournemouth would have been fine. Where did City finish? 9th with their 55 centre mid, which is pretty impressive. So let's take a job offer in the Premier League now and see if anything changes. Right, I just took a job at Arsenal because they were the team on the top of the list. So let's look at the league now and see if it's still the same. Yeah, okay, the league is the same. So it does save that. I feel like there's some quite low goal tallies in this league, which is interesting. Just take a look at who the top scorers in the league and everything. Joelinton from central midfield was the top scorer for Brentford. I remember Haaland plays for Brentford because he was coming up in the menu wearing a Brentford kit for me. So where is Haaland? Haaland scored 8 goals. That's it. What's going on? How did Haaland only score 8 goals and Joelinton got 22? Isak, Calvert-Lewin, Maupay, those all kind of make sense. They're strikers. Then Fernandes in 5th also kind of makes sense. See, the rest of it doesn't seem that crazy. It's just crazy that Haaland only scored 8 goals. Assists, Fernandes top, yeah, not a surprise. None of them are too crazy to me. Clean sheets, Emi Martinez at Spurs, also not a surprise. But Hennessy and Gerbic, no idea how to say his name, but they did their jobs as the sole keepers at their clubs. Then Scott Twine getting the most yellow cards in the league, and is that Gabriel Jesus? Or a different Jesus? I assume it's Gabriel Jesus, and Alvarez getting the joint most red cards. And if you're interested in the winners of the Cups, Newcastle beat Liverpool 2-0 in the Carabao Cup, and Fulham won the FA Cup on penalties against Coventry. So they weren't even one of the Premier League teams in the final with Fulham. And Coventry managed to beat Liverpool in the semis, the eventual Premier League winners, so that's pretty impressive from Coventry. So now I've made myself Liverpool manager because I wanted to have a look at the league winning team. And to be honest, it is quite strong. Only 3 players rated under 70. Probably wasn't like that at the start of the season, but it is now, so I mean, they have done the whole thing without a left back, although Davies was a left back before a centre back, I guess. Even their bench is pretty strong, though. That is stronger than a lot of teams' starting lineups, actually. Even the reserves, like Liverpool have got a strong side. I'm not surprised they won the league. And now I made myself United manager to look at the team that got relegated, and honestly, I'm surprised. Their team is like weak at cam and at left back and in goal, but the rest of the team's fairly strong, to be honest. I mean, the bench isn't even that bad, to be honest. So this team, they shouldn't have done well, but I don't think they should have got relegated. I mean, they've got 780 rated players, and then Solly March is almost an 80, so I'm surprised this team finished bottom, let alone got relegated. So this is the Bournemouth team that finished second bottom of the league, and again, that's another one I'm surprised at. They aren't actually weak anywhere. I think maybe Pascal Gross at CDM is their biggest issue, but they weren't playing Bukayo Saka. Saka's on the bench. They started Jarrod Bowen over Bukayo Saka. I didn't even know that. And Martinelli and Gakpo. They had Martinelli, Saka and Gakpo on the bench, yet they played Jackson, Bowen and Tresor. I don't know how to say his name. I don't know who he is. That's crazy. Because put Gakpo, put Martinelli, put Saka in. That's one of the best attacks in the league. And with Emi Buendia in there as well. I mean, he's not got a good rating, but I'm a Norwich fan, so I'm living off the nostalgia of that 2021 championship season where he was so good. But then Robertson at left back and Edison in goal. See, you make this the team, I think they get Champions League. But instead they got relegated. That's crazy. And now Sheffield United, the final relegated team, their midfield is good and the back line isn't too bad. But their strikers are a weakness. I wouldn't be surprised if they were the lowest scorers in the league and they're 32 goals. Are they the lowest scorers in the league? They are. That'll be why Sheffield United went down. Although they conceded 55 as well, which isn't anywhere near Man United. They conceded 64, but 55 is like joint third worst in the league, I think. Or they might be outright third worst. No, they're outright third worst in the league, which I am surprised at. Maybe the 3 at the back didn't help. But that midfield has gone to waste. They've just not helped on defence and not been able to create any attack. Well, they might have created attack, just strikers might not have been able to finish. Now going up the league, having a look at Fulham, who finished second in the league, and this team's nothing special, to be honest. They've got Pope, Martinez and Fernandes, but outside of that, nothing special, really. Anthony and Timber, he's not even a left back. He can't even play left back. How did these finish second with Neil Maupay up front? De Bruyne's on the bench. He must have been playing, though, because there's no way they're finishing second without Kevin De Bruyne. Let me just check their stats. Let me see if De Bruyne played. De Bruyne only played 28 games. Let me look at Bournemouth as well, see if like Saka, Martinelli and stuff were playing. Martinelli only played 13 games. And then Saka and Gakpo didn't even get on the pitch. No wonder they got relegated. They deserve to get relegated for that, for not playing Saka at all. Bournemouth deserves to go down for that. I've just seen that again. I still can't believe Joelinton was a top goal scorer. Now we're looking at Forest, who finished third, and their defence is quite strong, other than the keeper. and they only conceded 39 goals. But that's still the second most out of the top 5 there. So their attack's not even helped them loads either. They've got the 3rd best attack there. So I guess they've done decent. Isak actually would have helped. I think he was second on the top goal scorer. So how many goals did Isak get? Isak got 20 goals out of 53. So that's like 35% or like a bit higher than that off the top of my head. So Isak's kind of carried him. But their defense isn't bad. That would have helped. And they've got Phil Foden on the bench and Jack Grealish. And they played Paqueta instead. It's because he's a left mid, so they would have chose that over the left wingers. And neither of them have right mid as a position. I check if Foden and Grealish were playing. Because considering what they did, if Foden and Grealish were playing, they could have won the league. Like, if they weren't playing. Imagine Isak, Foden, Grealish. That would have been crazy. Grealish only played 14 games. Phil Foden didn't step on the pitch. These AI managers are so stupid. Doesn't make any sense. Now look at Spurs, and they finished 4th with a 68 in central midfield, who's on -6 as well, so he's playing like a 62. I remember I was worried about Spurs because they've got a poor central midfield, but they're like the opposite of, was it Forest? Or no, Sheffield United, who had the good central midfield and then nothing else. Spurs have got everything else but no central midfield, but apparently that didn't matter because they still finished 4th. And it's not even like there's backup in central midfield. This really was their best midfield to play. Maybe Chukwuemeka could have played. Or Alzate probably. Put Alzate in here in CDM. That's probably the only improvement, really. That Spurs side is pretty strong. It's only the midfield that's weak, but everything else that's a solid team. This is the first one where it's like, I'm not actually too surprised they finished where they did. Other than Liverpool, maybe. Now, the final team I'm looking at is Burnley, who have a strong side. And they finished 5th. I'm surprised they didn't finish higher because 80s across the board apart from right back. I'm so surprised Burnley didn't finish higher. Every player's playing in position as well. They've got good strength on the bench. I'm not going to lie, Burnley should have done better because they're strong across the board. There is not a single weakness in the team. Their weakest place is 79 rated. But maybe they've not done great because 85 is the highest rating. They've not got that standout, real special player, do they? And maybe because they're playing a 4-4-2. But I think Burnley should have done better than 5th, realistically. I think they've underperformed. So I lied. Burnley weren't actually the last team I was going to look at because I've got a couple of other notable teams I just want to check. And one of them is Chelsea because they were the only team without an 80 rated player. And they've actually finished 13th, which is quite impressive. And they still only got one 80 rated player now. And their goalkeepers are 68. So to finish 13th, I think that's pretty impressive from Chelsea. Well, I say they've not got any 80 rated. They've got Bruno Guimaraes on the bench. And for some reason, they had João Pedro, a striker, playing at cam instead of Bruno Guimaraes. But still, 13th for Chelsea is pretty good. Another team I wanted to check was Man City because they had a 55 rated centre mid and they finished 9th. And that centre mid is now 59. But I think the rest of their team was good enough to make them finish 9th, even though I don't think their team's actually that good. They've only got 380 rated players. If you compare it to some of the ones who finished really high or really low in the league, I honestly think it's worse than some that got relegated. So 9th for them is pretty impressive. And the real last one I wanted to check was Newcastle because I thought they had quite a strong team. And they only managed to finish 10th with that strong team. And looking at that team, that is way stronger than City's team. That is so much stronger. That's crazy that this team finished below Man City with a 55 rated central midfielder. And City didn't even have that many 80 rated players. Newcastle only have one who isn't 80. These should have won the league. I know I said Burnley should have. Or I said Burnley have underachieved. But Newcastle have underachieved way worse. They should have won the league easily. These should have walked the league, Newcastle should have. Maybe a small issue for him is that Ezri Konsa's playing right back when he's a centre back, but he only goes down to an 80 at that point, so I don't think that's an issue. Newcastle underperformed. Anyway, that is where I'm going to end this video here. I hope you enjoyed it, and I did, because it was quite interesting to me seeing what would happen, just random teams, and randomizing all the players, seeing where they'd end up, seeing if we'd get balanced teams, or some would be really weighted in one place or not, or whatever. Some would get really good players or not. And what we've seen happen is I think it has been more even than an actual Premier League, because Liverpool only got 69 points and they won the league. The relegated tallies are normal, but I think you'd usually see a higher points tally for the winners. And if you want to see a part 2 of this video, where I go even further in the future, go like 5 seasons, 10 seasons maybe, let me know, because it was quite interesting, so I would be happy to do that. And also, I am thinking about playing FIFA on this channel again. Not bringing back videos, but streaming. So what I might do is I might pick one of these teams, just turn that into a summer stream save. So let me know if you want to see that as well. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you want to see more from me, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.